This is Shikha Rastogi from the Voices of West Windsor. It's an effort from the West Windsor Historical Society and SR Mosaic. Now, I would like to welcome YZ, as we like to call him.
Yep.
And he is a known personality. I don't have to introduce him anywhere. Welcome to the platform of Voices of West Windsor.
Thank you, Shishka, for the invitation. I feel honored and privileged.
Thank you.
to do this.
So what does West Windsor mean to you?
Yeah, long story, but I'll make it short. We moved in year 2000. I know there was a question about it down the line. So it means, to answer your question, I think it means a good suburb life and with a high quality of education in the community. So that's really something we were looking for, and that's still something means a lot to us. It means to us as a community now. You know, like this is the home. This is probably now, if I thinking back, this is the longest period of time I lived in one place.
So what makes West Windsor unique?
Yeah, I think I partially answered the question when we search the place. Again, a high quality lifestyle, and then the education. And I guess the other 2 points probably is one is the diversity that we talked about a little bit ahead of this Zoom meeting. And diversity to me is a strength in any community, in any part of the world, actually. So we have that. So that is unique. And the other thing is the proximity to Princeton University. I see that, but having a international or top institution close by is a huge plus. In terms of culture, in terms of technology, the brain power next to you, right? So to that point, there have been a lot of conversation over the years. People were calling for something called the Einstein Alley, to sort of in comparison to Silicon Valley. And obviously, it's very difficult to compete with Silicon Valley in technology. But I think the idea of Einstein Alley is precisely based on the university, the Princeton University, that again, the intellect, the brain power exists on campus, and that potentially can get really into the local community and the society to make us a unique place where it's a vibrant society with also appeal to hopefully younger people in technology and business.
So where do you see yourself in the community of West Windsor?
Yeah, I'm happy. In fact, maybe that's also my goal, my mission is to bring the community together. I'm very happy to be sort of the bridge to connect people together. People from different backgrounds, even holding different political opinions in this particular period of time, which is probably the most challenging piece in terms of the divide of the country based on just political belief. But I think it is critically important for us to be able to put down the differences, whether it's culture, whether it's religion, whether it's political belief, to be able to talk at a human being level. So I see myself as a peacemaker to that extent, and bridger to bridge, again, different people from different backgrounds.
So is there someone in this town who has inspired you?
I would say many. I mean, as I mentioned, when I interact with people from different backgrounds, I got fascinated by their story, personal experiences, whether it's from India, from Middle East, from Europe, right? Even some people from Asia, I don't necessarily know that well. But I think one person in particular definitely gave me the most impact and influences is our former mayor, Sheng Fuxie. The time was that when I was coming to West Windsor was the year he started running for mayor. Yeah, so he knocked on my door, talking to me person to person, and then he, on the one hand, he's a government official. He was the council president for years by that time. But on the other hand, he's just like a down-to-earth individual human being that you can talk to, relate to. The biggest impact from the beginning, and then when he started serving as a mayor, I had a lot of chances to interact with him. And then eventually he started sort of prompt me or inspire me to also run for local positions. So I have to give a lot of credit to again, former Mayor Shea for his advices and mentor and guidance over the years. Yeah. So again, but not to, that doesn't mean that any other people will definitely lots of inspiration as well, but he's on the top of the list. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, please talk about your experience on the town council as
Yeah.
the councilman.
Yeah, my town council experience is relatively short because that's in 1 year. So it's kind of short experiences, but I think that gives me enough time to learn about the government and how it works at the grassroots level, and also to make me appreciate all the people involved in this. No matter it's a township administration, whether it's the staffs working for township, and the police, and the firefighters, everybody involved, and of course my peers at the council also. So I learned a lot from them, and also I think I developed more appreciation to every one of them. Now, in terms of accomplishment, I would say probably, this is something that we have not yet exactly accomplished. It's something I was sort of driving a little bit based on Environmental Commission's initiative to drive the plastic bag ban initiative. The good news is that my understanding is now the state level is getting that passed and everything. So we're in good hands, but it was some good exercise at the grassroots level, because sometimes when change occurred, sometimes it may change from the top for whatever reasons, but most of the time I think it's more effective to change from the bottom, meaning from the grassroots.
So my next question, definitely you have answered, but just a part of it I want to ask you is, what would you want to have pursued that you didn't get to while in the town council?
Not much of the regret. I mean, the plastic bag ban ordinance didn't get really passed at the end. When you position yourself in the history, right? So we all want to be not necessarily the pioneer, which would take a lot of courage and everything, but at least not in the back side of the wave, right? So that was my hope. We can do something, showing our neighboring towns to say, hey, we're pretty advanced in that protection of the environment and everything. So that's a bit of a regret. But other than that, I don't have another bigger thing.
What are the views? What are your views on the development in West Windsor? On the open space and smart land use, infrastructure.
Right. That's always probably the more complex question. When I was running for council, we got a resident asking that all the time, Harvard Hughes situation and everything. So I think to me, it's not a black and white answer to say zero development or lots of development. It's somewhere fall in the middle. If you look at the history of West Windsor, I mean, it has developed over the time, over the years. To me, it's more on the positive direction, into the positive direction to make it a more and more vibrant community and a lively community. So as much as some people may want to see things exactly the same, but things do change, things do evolve. So I think it's inevitable for anything to grow and develop. At the same time, the affordability is the key, meaning that if we develop something like 2,000 units or something, which is 20% increase, right? That's not bearable or affordable for the community. The school won't be able to catch up. The the development of the residential area. So I think there got to be some sort of, so that's sort of the second part, is something called smart land use and everything. So I think I would say it should be slow, but development to keep in mind to keep the community sort of getting into the new era, meaning when I talked about the earlier Einstein Alley idea, so we should think about how to bring some young people to town, right? Bring young people to town. So that is a comprehensive thing. So we may need when we are able to do that, we would need a maybe smaller unit of housing, less, at least in the beginning, less student population, maybe in the beginning. You know, eventually they'll have family and everything, but it will be a sort of a gradual change. And then we would need more office spaces. Right now, the office spaces in West Windsor are not fully occupied because there aren't enough business opportunities or technology startups in town. So I think this is a comprehensive development that cannot be done by an individual or any group, just a small group. It has to be done collectively to really sort of move forward with a not necessarily a master grand plan, but something constantly thinking about in that direction, is to say, if we do something, a development, what would be the impact on the positive and negative? What would it bring to the community in terms of our strengths, or we talked about earlier, in terms of the diversity, in terms of the opportunity for maybe a college graduate, for example.
Being in West Windsor for the past 18 years.
Yeah, 20.
20 years. Imagine. So
Yeah,
how has it changed since you moved here?
Yeah, I would say the interesting part is that on the one hand, I feel there is change. On the other, I don't feel there's much change. It's kind of interesting mix. The reason I say there are change, obviously, if you look at the population, you look at all the numbers, you look at all the demographics, there's definitely a lot of shift, right? Like, for example, there will be more Asian populations coming to town in terms of numbers. But in terms of the culture and diversity and everything else, I think because even by the time I moved in 2000, it was already a pretty diverse community, and people were open about it. You know, there was no issue amongst the different group of people. And I would give a little bit of credit to, again, former Mayor Shea, for him to form something called an interfaith community leaders. So basically, he was setting up this committee to bring all the religious leaders together from different part of religion groups, and that played also a good role to me. Like when I mentioned building the bridges and everything, so to say, we're becoming perhaps more integrated community over the years. Although, you know, there is always a pocket of the society. I mean, it's only natural for people to stay with people from the same background and culture, but at the same time, I'm also seeing more cross-culture, interaction, which is nice, which is the mechanism to bring people together.
So you have been, as you're multifaceted, so you were the vice president of the High School North PTSA?
Yeah, I was serving the PTSA for a year or two, yes.
And then you were also on the school board.
Right,
so,
for 3 years.
So please talk about your experience on the school board and how has the district changed since you have been here, like during whatever tenure you have done. And do you think that the way the COVID has been handled has been in a rightful direction?
From the school perspective, or from
the school?
Okay, yeah. To answer that, the COVID part first, maybe I thought the school district did a great job as the observer, because I'm no longer involved in school board decisions and everything, but just as a resident. Compared to other districts, I have friends in other part of the states and across the country, and I think our school district was fairly responsive, making quick decisions and evaluating situations carefully. So I would give them a plus in terms of the response to the COVID situation. I know there are people holding different opinions, like when they should cancel the Disney trip for seniors or something. There was back and forth discussion. At the end, the decision was made that it should be canceled. I thought that was a good decision, even though, there were always people on both sides of the fence, of course, right?
Yeah.
But I think the way they made a decision was careful. They listened to all parties. So I thought that the decision was a good one. Now, in terms of my experience with the school board and changes, I think this can put me on the fence in terms of my own opinion shift over the years as serving as a school board member. And also afterwards, just as a parents, we are a high achieving school district, no doubt. And that's one of the reasons for a lot of people to move into this area, West Windsor, Plantboro included, to have the opportunity for high quality education. So on the one hand, there is a big concern from the community in terms of maintaining or even increasing the quality of education, continuously improve and become more excellent. On the other hand, there is also a concern from the community about the pressure in school, the social aspect of the education and everything else. Because after all, education is not all about academics. They're about social experiences and about sports, and so it is a all-around education. So I have to admit, especially at this point in time, my kids went through all my three boys went through the K-12 education entirely through the district. Yeah, I'm reflecting more and more. I'm thinking along the line of the whole child more and more. So I become over time stronger supporter of that concept and also that kind of practice. So in particular, when we were discussing about the reform or removal of elementary school level A&E math, advanced and enriched math program, which used to start at fourth grade. Yeah, and then now it's got into sixth grade, so postponed for 2 years. So during that discussion, I was very much caught in the middle of those kind of two schools of thought to say, this versus that, right? So it was a tough decision for me. It was a soul-searching process. So, but I can tell you that after that experience, it makes me think broadly and deeply more from many people's point of view, not just my own personal angle. So I'm more in agreement with the concept, again, the whole child, and also try to manage the pressure of our students in our school district. Because and also after I talk to other people in other towns and other districts, you kind of realize that we are a kind of unique school district in that our priority of education is very high. Just in the families here, they come here for that. So there's enough emphasis on the education compared to any other regular, quote unquote, regular school district. I think it's good to have a check and balance to consider other aspects of the education more so than just pure academic. So to that extent, I'm not saying we should dumb down the excellent academic education, but I'm saying as a community, as a parents, that there should be a conscious decision to say, I need to strike a balance for my children's education experiences, right? So that should come from inside rather from limitation. So the idealistic situation is there's no constraint, no limitation from the school district, and then there's a lot of self-constraint from the community. But my observation was that in my tenure during the school board and also maybe before that, there was too much pressure from the community to push for some of the agendas, such as A&E. Now imagine A&E class, for each year we have about 800 students, right? And the A&E could only take something like a 7.5%, which means 600 60 students out of 800 students.
Yes.
But guys, how many parents would think their kids are qualified for this? 600. So 600 students, parents think that their kids are qualified for it. They took this high-staking test after the third grade. It was such a, I wouldn't call it a complete negative, but such a growing experience for young kids just finishing third grade to go through this lengthy test to decide if they're smart enough in math. So now I can talk about it openly because now I'm, gone through all the experiences, and in the middle of it, I was attacked by a lot of the people supporting ANE passionately. Which again, I see their point of view. I used to agree with them more, but now I just think otherwise a little bit more. Right? Again, after considering all the opinions from all people in the school district, and also trying to pull myself out of the situation, thinking from above, overlook the situation, then I have to admit that I shifted my opinion from more pro the elementary ENE to now I support the reform to start from middle school, and also not through a high-stake test. But one experience also taught me about growth mindset. Because our education system teaches us growth mindset, not to be stuck with one thing. Our teachers typically don't teach students what is exactly right or wrong, or what I mean that is, obviously there's a moral standard always there, right? But what I mean is in terms of history, in terms of that, they don't necessarily push their opinion on students. They ask them to discuss and form their own opinion based on the reading. So that's really give them the opportunity to become lifelong learner and also to develop a growth mindset. So reflecting back, I'm thinking this experience I just described made me a more open-minded person, like more of a growth mindset.
That's a good thought. So as moving on to the another facet of your life, so you were the board chair of the Plains Road Chinese School.
Right.
So so as we were talking about the diversity in West Windsor, and you said that, yes, of course, it's a good diverse town. So is there anything specific that could be improved to further celebrate or support cultures in West Windsor? And, and anything that's been done, is it right, or are there improvement points?
That's a good question. What I think the best combination is two things. Number one is that we should all celebrate our own background and culture, because there's a reason the culture exists such a long time, thousands of years for both Indian culture and the Chinese culture. For example, you and I are talking. Obviously, there are other cultures from other part of the world also. So I think it's good for each of us to cherish, appreciate, and celebrate our unique background and culture. So that's the idea of the Chinese school, and so I think the Chinese school is, in that sense, really successful, because it's capable of take the tradition and carry it on and pass it on to our newer generations, not just the Chinese language, but also the culture and everything else around it. So I think from that perspective, I don't think there's a huge improvement we can do. Probably we can all do better. That is, how do you get other part of the community involved in this? Like promoting this Chinese school to a larger society, which we did, but I think probably could have been done better, to talk to other people to say, hey, come to our Chinese school, learn Chinese, or maybe learn martial arts, or maybe learn some Chinese traditional dance, right? So again, we did that, but I thought we could have done it a lot more. And become a regular thing. Like we should have gone to all the community events, set up a table and promote it, which again, we did part of it, not like we didn't do it, like especially in the cultural event. Chinese school was always one of the organizations, promoting and helping and performing more oftentimes. But I think it's just a degree of sort of cross-cultural interaction. For example, I'm just being pretty open thought here. Maybe Chinese school can collaborate with a Hindu school, or
Yeah, like
so something. Like all of a sudden you have this cross culture collaboration to have a some kind of show organized by two or more communities, which we have it, like traditions say is kind of like that. But again, it could be a more grassroots level collaboration and bring the community together. So in that regard, I thought maybe there could be things that can be done more, right? Yeah, from the Chinese school's perspective. And the other thing is that you probably know already, we have the dual language program in Westminster Plainsboro School District,
yeah.
which actually I was pretty proud. If you ask me the question of my initiative within my school board tenure, I would say that's not my initiative, but I was a huge advocate for dual language immersion program, which now we offer Chinese and Spanish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the dual language immersion program is probably something the Chinese school can also promote. Thinking back, to do something above and beyond just a weekend, one day Chinese school. It could be a after school program or some sort, working with the school district in some fashion to promote those kind of semi quote unquote semi dual language program or something that can reach out to not just the Chinese American immigrants, but also the larger community.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And that's to our West Windsor.
Right.
So where do you see West Windsor in the future, in your ideal scenario and realistically? And what specific measures can West Windsor take to reach the ideal situation?
Yeah. So I'm going to be very selfish as a business person to
Yeah.
lower the business property tax for startups because I'm in startups myself. Yeah, but truthfully, I think it's a half joke, half serious. Is that we have to be more business friendly in terms of West Windsor. I know there's a lot of complaints that's actually circle back to the question. Something I was not able to accomplish. Maybe that's one thing is to make West Windsor more business friendly or business friendlier. Right. So not that we're not completely, but we're not enough in some cases to welcome business to come to town. And I would, again, being selfish here, is special emphasis on maybe the technology side, because to be able to build a Einstein Alley in the long term, you have to have a lot of the technology companies in the area to start a ecosystem. The ecosystem works only if you have a certain critical mass.
Yeah.
So our company is called Singularity Systems. I don't know if you got a chance to look it up, but it's a AI machine learning company, right? So, but after I joined, or we started this company, I start to learn similar companies in this area because you're looking out for your potential competitors or collaborators, right, in the business, and then you start to learn. But I thought there could be a facilitating things for all the businesses to be able to come together. And obviously we have the Princeton Chamber of Commerce, which I was part of it for a number of years. But I thought there could be something done better, whether it's a township level or some grassroots organization or something. I was thinking of forming a sort of entrepreneur society or something for West Windsor, but just got tied up and too busy. I haven't got a chance to do it, but that's something I've been thinking for a long time, is to have this kind of body from the community. We have a lot of talents in town. If you look at our residents here, we get high-level executives in financial service and other industries, pharmaceutical industries, and you name it. And we have the entrepreneurs, we have the technologists, plenty of those. I'm sure we have lots of investors and venture capitalists in town somewhere too. So if you put all these people together, and that's how you start a real conversation and tangible things to help the community build businesses, especially on the technology side. So that's, to me, that's the future of West Windsor as part of the Einstein Alley, the larger picture, including obviously the greater Princeton area, but West Windsor being in the golden position closest to Princeton, and we even our name is called Princeton Junction.
Yeah.
So we have even a name. We have the train station
Yes.
into Princeton. So we should take a full advantage of that position and then try to do more things to promote that idea, the goal, so that West Windsor will become further enriched. It's already a diverse town, culturally rich, but if we can add another dimension into business/technology, and
Hmm.
that will bring the young crowd in, that will help change the dynamics of the society to become a little bit younger, quote unquote.
Hmm.
By the way, I'm not saying old folks like myself should just move out. I mean, in fact, it's the opposite. I think if we have more old folks stick around like empty nesters. I became an empty nester a couple of years ago. We were thinking, should we move out, right? A lot of people do that. Like my neighbors, most of my neighbors moved out right as soon as the youngest kid went
Yeah.
to college, which
Yeah.
is a trend. But I think that trend also added a toll to our tax, right? Because if all those empty nesters move out right away, that means that our student population per household would be higher,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Then there will be more burden to your property tax. So
Yes.
it's a cycle. So we
Yeah.
have to also encourage the senior citizens to stick around, right? So give them the culture access and whatever. The senior center, by the way, is pretty good to begin with, but I think there's things we can do to also attract the seniors to stick around. So we have the wider spectrum, not just in the middle, like, okay, you have a family with children in school. Yes,
Yeah.
of course, we should have that, but we should also have the spectrum widened to have some seniors stick around, enjoy life here, quality of life, maybe slightly expensive compared to Pennsylvania, but they still enjoy it here, right?
Yes.
It's
That is
attraction here because of the circle of friends, because of the culture access and everything else, the vibrant community, and the young on the younger side, you have the young college graduate coming to town because of the business/technology opportunities. So that's the bigger picture I'm painting in my head for the future of West Windsor. Again, it's a long term object and goal. But I think if we all think about that line and
yes.
act on it in our own part, our own role,
Yeah.
then we'll get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
That's but thank you so much for being a part of, you have been, as I've said, that you have motivated a lot of us, and
Thank you for saying that.
yes, and you have actually worked so much for the community and in the community, and people like you make our community a better place to live in.
Thank you for that compliment, for that
Yeah.
recognition. I really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thank you so much for being a part of Voices of West Windsor,
Absolutely.
and we'll be looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
All right. And any